Have you ever experienced a glitch in the Matrix? If so, consider sending it my way. Just go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to do so. And thank you. I have a weird thing that happened with myself and my mother that I don't know if it's a glitch in the Matrix or some kind of parallel universe situation, but it was weird as hell. And honestly, it freaked me out. So, to give you just a bit of perspective and show you how things are normally, I live about an hour or so away from my parents, and we're all really close. I have always been super close with my mom, and I genuinely love my dad. So, when I moved out, things were very difficult for all of us. Because of that, we made a promise that we would meet up every other weekend on Sunday for dinner. That way, we got to see each other on a regular basis, but it wasn't too intrusive, and no one had to drive too much to make it work. Of course, it was always me driving to their place, so it was more to help me not have to spend too much on gas. Now, there have been very few instances where I was unable to make it, or had an issue that would prevent me from driving over to their place, and, if that happened, we would either put it off a week, or they would come over to my place. Usually, we would just push it off to the next week, but they had been over once or twice. On these days, I would always leave at 1 in the afternoon to be there around 2, and I would stay until around 10, basically spending all afternoon and evening with them. If I was running late, I would always call them to let them know, or if we had to cancel, I would call them. Alright, so that all out there, there was what I guess you would call an event that happened during one of our weekends last year that was really, really weird. It was in October, because it was starting to get cooler, but it wasn't yet snowing. On this particular weekend, that Sunday to be exact, I was leaving the grocery store and had somehow managed to get a large roofing nail in my tire. Not sure how, but that's not really important. I just got home and saw that there was a decent-sized nail in the side of the tire. I did the whole check thing with soapy water, and sure enough, it was bubbling. So, not only was there a nail, it was leaking air. Because of where the nail was, I wasn't willing to drive and have it potentially cause a blowout. So, I called my mom's cell phone to let her know that I wasn't going to make it. Strangely enough, she didn't answer. I figured that she was probably busy, so I called my dad, and he also did not answer. At this point, I was a little bit confused. But again, they're adults. They aren't always glued to their phones, so I assumed that they were just really busy with something else. I called my mom's phone one more time, and I decided to leave a voicemail. I remember what I said in this voicemail verbatim. And yes, that is actually important to this event. I said, "Hey Mom, I wanted to call and let you guys know that we're gonna have to cancel this weekend. I have a nail in my tire. I'm gonna take it in this week, so we can just meet up next Sunday instead." I said those exact words, and I know that was what I said, because it's what happened. After that, I went about my business, made myself dinner, did some work, and then went to bed. Cue the next morning, where all hell had seemingly broken loose. I woke up to multiple texts and missed calls from my mother, but all of them were from that morning, around 5 or 6 in the morning. I immediately called my mom to check in, thinking that something had happened, and she asked me if I was okay. told her I was fine, and I asked her what was going on. She then asked me why I never showed up last night, and why I hadn't been answering my phone. I told her that I never got a call from her last night, and then I mentioned the voicemail that I left for her asking if she got it. That's when it got weird. She said, "The voicemail you left saying you were running late?" I was a bit confused, but then said, "No, the voicemail where I said I wasn't going to make it at all, because there was a nail in my tire." We went back and forth on this for a while, but really weren't getting anywhere. So, I asked her if she and Dad wanted to drive up for lunch or something, since I was going to take that day off, to which she agreed. They drove up, we went to get food, and then I decided to ask about what was going on that previous night, and I was blown away by what she said. My mom said that at around 11 that morning, she had gotten a voicemail from me that said I was running late, and that I said I would be there around 4 instead of 2. She said that she tried to call me back, but my phone was going straight to voicemail, so she left me a message and then also sent me a text saying that it was okay. 4 o'clock rolled around, and they were concerned. So they tried calling me again, and once more my phone was going straight to voicemail. They had both tried calling and texting me multiple times, but I apparently was not responding to them. She said that they then called my brother, who lives around 15 minutes or so north of me, and asked him to come by and check on me. He claims that he got here and the lights were off, and that no one answered the door. They said that they had been trying to get a hold of me all night, and had even been calling hospitals and police stations to see if I had been arrested or gotten into an accident. She even showed me her voicemail, and had me listen to it. But it was the weirdest thing because, while I could hear my voice saying I'm running late, it sounded choppy, like it was fading in and out. They showed me all of the outgoing calls and the texts that they sent, and even the timestamp of when they called my brother. Based on this, he showed up at my house around 7 that night, when I was just sitting on my couch and watching Netflix, and eating some leftover spaghetti that I had made. I was seriously confused and conflicted. I told them that I had called, and then said that I had said I wasn't going to be there because of the nail in my tire, and I told them that I was home the entire night. Basically, my night was the polar opposite of what they said happened. I was home. No one ever showed up at my door. It wasn't like my brother went to the wrong place. He comes over all the time, and he definitely knows where I live. So, that's my one weird thing that happened to me in my life, and my one experience with parallel universes or matrix glitches or whatever. I lived one night and left a specific message, but for some reason the wires of reality got crossed, and I was stuck in one reality while they were in a completely different one. I have no logical explanation for this, and if anyone does have any ideas, I would appreciate it. Beyond that, it was just really freaky. This happened in 2013. I was a graphic designer for a small minority-oriented newspaper in a country that is not the United States. My job specifications included editing photos for print, which is a little tricky since newspaper is like TP, as it absorbs ink like nothing you've ever seen. So the photos need to be lightened quite a bit. But getting them too light, or not light enough, might turn political. Since, for example, if you get the editing wrong, and a presidential candidate ends up looking lighter or darker than in real life, then yeah, The opposition party's claims said candidate is attempting to appear more appealing to a specific demographic, thereby garnering more votes. This has happened. But I digress. So, I log into our company server and start editing photos that are linked to stories which arrive from the editorial staff during the course of the day. And, among them, is a picture of a radiant Kate Middleton and a proud Prince William holding their firstborn, Prince George, aka His Royal Highness Prince George of Cambridge. Suddenly, I'm hit with the sense of wrongness. I'm staring at this photo and all I can think of is... Wait, there's only one? Because I'm so certain that they actually had twins. A pigeon pair. I specifically recalled tabloids and magazines speculating that the twin they claimed was born first was actually the girl and not the boy, as decreed by Buckingham Palace. This confused the heck out of me, as in I had, and still have, this urge where I'd previously edited, or should be editing, an image of Kate and William each holding a newborn for the paparazzi. The babies were, or I guess should have been, held by their parents so that their little feet were pointing toward each other. They were dressed identically, and they were both blissfully asleep while the royal couple looked at each other with love and adoration. I asked the journalist writing the story to come over, and I asked her if she's sure that this was an approved picture and not a fake. She looks at me as if I were on drugs, and stated that this image was provided by an internationally accredited source that rhymes with schmuters. Nobody at the newspaper had any knowledge of twins ever being born. I tried digging into this a few times since then, but I came up empty-handed every time. Nothing. Absolutely nothing about a set of British royal twins for around 600 years. So there's that. I still think about that day, and it kind of feels like my brain took a memory, duplicated it, and then threw it through a blender. And I haven't publicly spoken about it for 8 years now. It's either a crafty glitch in the Matrix, or a Mandela effect. I'm not sure. It's just that I'm almost certain that there should have been a boy and a girl. I saw a glitch NPC. Let me begin with saying that I don't believe in ghosts, as in once a living person's spirit remaining behind. But, even said, this doesn't apply because the person I saw in this glitch is still alive. My job currently has two main sites around 10 miles from each other. One has hazmat material, and the other I work at doesn't. I live smack in between the two, as so is my small town. In fact, employees from the main office on nice days walk into town for lunch at one of the small restaurants. 15 years ago, I had a supervisor, we'll call him Wayne, and he is a very unique person that you cannot mistake for anyone else. The way he walks, talks, and so on. When he was my supervisor, we had a third site that closed during the recession years back. The employees were shuffled into the remaining two sites. I was lucky that I wasn't sent to the hazmat materials department, and Wayne wasn't. He had decades of experience at the main office anyway, so he went there. Fast forward to 7 or 8 years ago, he was also transferred into an office position at my site. He was in his mid-60s at this point. So, my company was kind enough to give him a lighter load. It was great seeing and working with him again, but time had definitely taken its toll. He looked his age, and perhaps a little bit older. I'm not going to lie. Our job is very physically tough. Well, he retired after a few years here, and I never saw him again. Until last year. I went into town to the post office on my break, and then as I get back in my car, I see him walking past my car. I yell, "Wayne, hey!" And I got no response. It's definitely him. I saw him closely, like 3 feet away. His non-response wasn't weird because he was a little hard of hearing. So I got out of my car to go walk up and say hi. I saw him walking towards the post office, and I call out, "Wayne," as he turned the corner. At this point, I was like 2 or 3 feet away as he turned the corner. I stepped around the corner less than 2 seconds after him, and he was gone. There wasn't a car for him to get into, and if he went into the post office, the door wouldn't even have had time to close, even if he ran to it after turning the corner. There was nowhere for him to go, even if he ran like an Olympic champion. This was seconds. It was like the second he left my sight, he just vanished. And yes, I checked the post office. I even walked the only way he could have gone. Nothing. I went back to work and I asked everyone about him. I thought maybe he came off retirement and was working in the main office again and was on break. Didn't explain how he disappeared, but no one has seen or heard from him again since he retired. Every explanation that I could think of did not account for him disappearing like that. Then it hit me. I was asked about him at my job. He didn't look how he did when I saw him last. He looked like he did when I worked with him back when we had the 3rd location. At least 10 to 15 years younger. As I said, I don't believe in ghosts, but I thought, what if I found out that he died? I would have to adjust my beliefs. I dug and found out that he is very much alive, and just, living in another state. So what did I see? It was him. His very distinctive swagger, his glasses. I saw him close up. I wasn't thinking about him at all when I saw him. Could it have been a doppelganger? A temporal echo? Or has he become just a background NPC and I wasn't supposed to notice? Or one that wasn't meant to be spawned in? I don't know. But it makes me wonder if we are in a simulation, and some people are NPCs. But then, who else is? Who is real? What is real? I don't think I want to know. So, I have a super simple and incredibly mundane glitch, but I feel like I absolutely have to share it for a reason that some of you may find funny. You did a story a while back about someone that went to bed with a messy apartment, and then they woke up to it being spotless. And then there were several commenters that made jokes about how they needed their own quote-unquote cleaning fairies from the Matrix. Well, I think I had a visit by those cleaning fairies, because I experienced damn near the same thing, and it's actually kind of terrifying. First off, the obvious. I'm a guy in my mid-20s with really bad ADHD. Like, medically diagnosed ADHD by doctors that pretty much told me that everything was hopeless, and that I wouldn't amount to much because I couldn't hold a thought for more than 4 minutes. I have my own apartment in a small college town, and I live by myself. The only person that has a key to my apartment is my brother, and he lives around 25 minutes away. And he's never shown up unannounced, nor has he ever shown up in the middle of the night. Being a mid-20s dude with an attention deficit, I do have struggles with keeping my place clean. I mean, I keep it picked up for the most part. I keep the dishes done, my food isn't all over the place, and I keep the floor mostly cleaned up. There is, however, One room where my brain seems to go into a panic attack when I try to do any sort of organization to it, and that is my bathroom. I have a fairly small bathroom in my apartment. It's just the toilet, a sink with a mirror on it across from said toilet, and then the tub. I also have one of those over-the-toilet shelves where I keep all the extra paper and stuff, and I have all my things on the sink. When I say things, I mean face wash, soaps, razors, combs, brushes, cotton swabs. A lot of just various bathroom things are all sitting on my sink. And it is a disaster. When I try to organize it, though, I feel like the room is spinning. And for some reason, I freak out. So, I pretty much have just left it like it was and have lived with it being a disaster. Well, about a week or so ago, I was doing my normal routine of picking things up and putting them away when I told myself that I was going to organize my bathroom. I literally stood in the doorway and psyched myself up to do it, which sounds incredibly dumb now that I've written it out. Then, I walked in and started to move things, but I couldn't do it. I ended up stopping because my dad had texted me, and I never went back to finish organizing the sink. I think I took my dad sending me that text as the universe saying, "Hey, you can just finish it later." So I shouted back, "Ha ha, I'm not going to do it at all." Well, I think the universe then laughed back at my face, because when I woke up the next morning, my sink was seemingly organized. There was no clutter, or things stacked on top of each other. My toothbrush and razor were appropriately put away, and the soaps were all where they should have been. Basically, it had been organized and situated in a way that it should have been, in a way that I would have organized it. The problem is, I didn't do it, and I have no idea why or how someone would come into my apartment to clean up my bathroom for me, and then leave without stealing anything. I don't remember doing it, and I've never experienced an event where I followed through with something all the way, and then just forgot about it. I wasn't cleaning it while I was talking with my dad, because I called him after he texted me, and I was sitting out on the back patio smoking while we chatted. I don't believe that I sleep cleaned it, but I guess that is one possibility. So, to those that were looking for a visit from the Matrix's cleaning fairies, just know that apparently they can visit you all as well. Just don't be surprised if they do it and you freak out because you don't know how it all happened. So, I don't know if this would be classified as supernatural or a glitch in the Matrix, but ever since I was young, I would be able to see the future. Now, something to keep in mind is that my entire family is very spiritual, so this stuff has always just been normal to us, and my mother's lack of a reaction is pretty normal. Anyway, the few distinct instances of seeing the future that I have were all when I was fairly young. One instance, when my mother and I went to the first Hungry Jack's, the Australian Burger King, to open within 30 minutes of our home. I had never been there before, nor had I ever seen a Hungry Jack's before, because we live in the middle of literally nowhere. So, a week before we went to said Hungry Jack's, I had a dream about entering a restaurant with neon light strips along the roof and a neon jukebox in the corner. I saw the toilet to the left of the entrance and the play area to the right. Didn't really think much of it, because at like 8 years old, you have weird dreams. Then, a week later, we went to the restaurant, and it was exactly like it was in my dream. even down to the music playing on the jukebox that I had never heard before said dream. I had the weird sense of deja vu, and I remember telling my mom that we had already done this before. Of course, she wasn't weirded out, and just told me that it was normal to have deja vu dreams. I have them pretty infrequently since that point in time, but I still have no idea what the cause is. Whether it be spiritual, or a glitch in the Matrix. I have what I consider to be the dumbest glitch in the world, and it's also one of the most annoying things that I have ever had to deal with, because it forced me to completely rearrange parts of my room. I live in the basement at my grandparents' house, and please don't judge me for that. I'm a 24-year-old guy that's really gotten down on his luck during the whole pandemic. I do have a girlfriend, and we are planning on getting a place of our own, but 2020 messed up a lot of things for a lot of people, including myself, and the place I was working for actually ended up having to shut down for various reasons during COVID. I'm actually beyond grateful that my grandparents decided that they didn't mind me moving into the basement for a few years while I try to get things back in order. And they are starting to look up, so that's good, but not really relevant. Anyways, I live in the basement, and my room is situated as such. There is a door at the bottom of the stairs that opens inward, and in front of that is the closet. To the right is a concrete wall, and in the left corner by the wall where the door is, I have my bed, and my TV is on the opposite side. I also have a nightstand that is between the foot of my bed and the wall where the door is. And that's where I typically plug in my phone charger, because it's one of the only outlets that's easily accessible. There's about a 4-inch gap between the end of my nightstand and the edge of that wall, and that's where the outlet is. So I can plug it in, and it's not a problem. Well, that is until a few weeks ago. My grandparents and I went out to have brunch, which is something they like to do, and they will sometimes invite me along. It was a nice time, but while we were there, I noticed that my phone was almost dead. I must have made a face because my grandpa asked me if everything was alright, and I just said, yeah, my phone just didn't charge overnight for some reason. He laughed, and then made a joke about me forgetting to plug it in, and I said that I must have just unplugged the charger from the wall and not realized it. Then, we moved on from there. When we got home, I immediately went downstairs to plug my phone in. I grabbed my charger off of my dresser and went to plug it into the outlet by the nightstand. When I noticed, there was no outlet there. I was beyond confused. I was literally just standing there on my knees and staring at a wall where there used to be an outlet. And there was no outlet. I always plugged my phone into this spot on the wall. I know this because it was in a perfect location for me to do so. And then I would put the phone on the nightstand, and that was that. But now there's no outlet at all. I started looking around at the wall around where the outlet used to be, and there's now an outlet on the other side in the corner that is blocked by my nightstand. There is literally no way for me to plug my phone in there and have the nightstand where it is. The plug wouldn't even fit in the gap that's there, and if it did, it would bend the hell out of the cable. I know it's dumb, like I said, but it's the weirdest thing that has ever happened to me. This outlet literally shifted spots on my wall on a random Sunday. Because of this, I ended up having to completely rearrange how I had my room set up, so that I could better utilize the plugs. I did ask my grandparents, but they both said that they couldn't remember the outlet layout of my room, so they were no help. Either way, that was my glitch. It was just a random day where an outlet decided it wanted to hide in the corner instead of where it once was, and then forced me to move everything so I could use it. It was incredibly annoying, but I guess it just is what it is. In 2019, my girlfriend and I were in our room talking and coloring, and there was 2 doors for our room. One leading to the living room, and the other was to her 3-year-old grandson's bedroom. It was near his bedtime, and he was in his room in bed. Then, my girl and I hear her grandson fussing and whining and a clanking noise coming from his room. We jump up, and we open his door to see what's going on. I will never forget that. He was trying to open the other door to the hallway, wiggling and pulling on the doorknob and crying. Thing is, it never had a door in the doorframe, as long as we lived there. It felt 100% normal, like there was always one there. So my girlfriend is obviously pissed and yells out, "She better not lock my grandson in his room." I said, "No, calm down. I'll go around and unlock it." So I went around to unlock it, but when I got there was no door there. I've never been so confused. He was lying in his bed quietly playing with his toys. All I could say was, "It's not locked," and then walked back trying to figure out what had just happened. We didn't say anything till later the next day when I asked her about the door. I think the way it felt so normal with the door there and then not there, different realities crossed for a few minutes. Okay, so to get this story rolling, we need a little but also brief context. At my house, I have a garage. In said garage, I have a shop. And in said shop, I have tools, materials, and I make stuff. Stuff being anything out of wood and metal. Mostly wood, but yes, some metal. Anyways, I have been, for about 2 months now, been working on this sword. It's a 3-foot katana-esque sword. It's gotten to the point where I'm about to make and apply the handle to the sword. One of the last steps. Every time I get through working on a project for that day, I leave it in the same spot, right in front of where I sit, like everyone else who works on stuff does. So, tell me why I step into my shop tonight, and there's no sword. I cannot find this thing anywhere. I've looked and looked and wouldn't have moved it because it isn't done. I'm still working on it, so why would I move it? I'm really confused and puzzled as to what happened to it. Anyway, that's my short and absolutely confusing glitch story. This popped up in my memories on Facebook yesterday. In June of 2017, I had dreams for 4 or 5 days in a row, where each one I would hear or see, warning, error 424. And then, I would wake up at exactly 4:24 a.m. I can remember portions of 2 of them. The first, I was in a hallway when an alarm sounded, and then a voice repeated, warning, error 424. I woke like you do from a very scary nightmare, heart racing and just scared. I looked over to the alarm clock, one of those old ones with the red digital numbers, where if an alarm is set, it either beeps annoyingly or plays a radio station. The time was 4:24. The second one I remember, I was again in a hallway standing by a black door. There was a panel next to it with a digital display. It started flashing, error 424. Again, I woke up as if from a nightmare. I glanced at the clock and again, 4:24 a.m. While I can't remember the other dreams now, I do know that it happened multiple times. Was this a glitch in the Matrix, or a coincidence? So that, my lovely friends, my good peoples, the people that listen to my videos and such, that like my content, was this week's Glitch in the Matrix collection, and hopefully it was a collection that you all can, will, and did enjoy. I mean, if you did enjoy it, you will enjoy it, because that's future versus past tense. I'm a confusing individual. Anyways, I hope you all liked the video. If you did, please do consider hitting that thumbs up button, and of course, subscribing to the channel if you are new. I've been told I do these Glitch in the Matrix stories rather well, and I do them weekly, so there you go. Do with that what you will. You can also hit the thanks button down below, or join, or go to the Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, with the exception of the join, you can support the channel and get early access to content like this. The thanks is just a tip thing. It's a little different, but yeah. I try to post these as early as I can. Like this one's going to go up, well, I was going to say Sunday night, but it's 2 after midnight, so technically super early on Monday morning. Sorry about that. I was late with Saturday's video going up on Sunday, too. Doing a great job, aren't I? Anyways, yeah. All that stuff's appreciated, but never ever expected. Just know that. And the level of appreciation I have for you guys that do that stuff cannot be overstated. Thank you so much. Now, the word of the week. It's the thing I do, where I read a word and a definition, and then several of you are willing to make a sentence with said word of the week. And last week, there were a ton of you who were very lucky people, because last week's word of the week was lucky. And on the screen right now, and a few seconds prior to now, is a screenshot of every single comment that left the word lucky. You all are amazing. Thank you so very much for making it to where I can fill the screen with your comments. Now, this week we're going to not do something different. I almost did it again. I didn't do it last week, but anyway. This week we're going to manage things in a way that is the same, because this week's word of the week is manage. M-A-N-A-G-E, which means to have charge of, direct, or administer, to exert control over, I said that kind of weird, to direct or supervise, to succeed in accomplishing, to succeed in coping or dealing with, to direct or conduct business affairs. I'm only going to put a few of these on the screen, but there are tons of definitions of manage. And of course, any derivative of the word manage will also be accepted. Manager, managing, managerial, manage. Not menagerie. Don't put the word menagerie. I won't accept that. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed, like I said. And I hope I see you guys in the next video. And just know, you're all amazing people. I love you. You're important. You are valid. And don't ever let someone or anyone tell you otherwise. And then until I see you again, I hope that you sleep well.